Well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are tonight on the interweb, the World Wide Web. I'm Sid Thompson. Welcome again to another episode of the Simple Plays podcast. I will be your quarterback, your coach, your manager, your referee, kind of herding the cats as I call it tonight for a show. We got a guest that we're looking forward to have on tonight, Jason Strayhorn. Then we'll bring on here after we talk a little bit about this week in sports. But I want to bring on our man, Brian. I don't see Rev here tonight so far. He's not popped on yet. So, Brian, why don't you introduce all of our hosts and everybody on here tonight, and then we'll just jump right into the wild world of sports.
Sure. My name is Brian Newdall. I am the stats man here at the Simple Plays. We have who you just heard from, Sid Thompson, former broadcaster, scout, you name it, he does it. He's our quarterback. We have pro host, Mr. Steve Martin, 10-year NFL vet. We have Mr. Ulish Booker, former Super Bowl champion with the Steelers, Mr. Party, as we call him. We have our producer who makes us all look good, Mr. Zach Ryherd. We have usually have Kevin Ryherd, but he must be under the weather or something. The Rev, but yeah. So we're here. We're glad you're here with us, and we'll kick it back to Sid here.
Well, Brian, I would be remiss if I do not forget the man behind the scene, Zach Ryhard, our producer, running the show, making us look good. Thank you for everything you do, Zach. So, guys, let's take a few minutes before we go into our guest today. Let's just jump into the wild, wild world of sports this week. A lot of things going on. There was a signing I didn't know about until you just mentioned it before we went online. College World Series is in play now with baseball. NCAA is a major upset in that area with Tennessee getting beat, not making it. Top team in baseball, number one, did not even make it to the finals. Oklahoma Sooners, Boomer Sooners, winning the national championship, probably the best fast pitch team ever compiled, put together amongst a host of other things, including one of my favorite sports, the toughest championship of all to win, I call it, and I know it, is the Stanley Cup. So, Brian, you want to start out right away? Let's talk about that contract that I heard about, some safety signing, making some green.
Sure. I also want to mention we also have our Weird Will segment tonight as well.
Absolutely, we'll top of the hour.
But yes, $18.5 million per year, 5-year deal. Micah Fitzpatrick, safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pro Bowler, very good player. $18.5 million looks like a bargain at the way contracts are going right now. So I don't know. What do you think, Book? This is one of your guys.
Hey, man. I think anytime, just look at the history of Pittsburgh and their affection for safeties and just, good secondary players all the way back from Mel Blount, to Rod Woodson, then obviously Troy Polamalu and Micah Fitzpatrick is he's your prototype quarterback on that back end at that safety position. He's calling the shots and shooting the shot. So anytime you can get a guy that you can depend on, and that's the only way that Pittsburgh will pay somebody like that, is if they can depend on them. If they like you and they can depend on you more importantly. And Micah Fitzpatrick is a guy that they can count on, not just be counted, but count on. And you can tell his impact over the last 2-3 years from a defensive standpoint. As it pertains to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So kudos to him. Congrats to him. Got his bag. Let's go get number 7.
Yeah, congrats to him. He's a phenomenal guy. Clearly, he's the program guy that they want. He's definitely leading, and he's embraced the Steeler way. So, congratulations to him and congratulations Steelers. They're going to get tough conference this year. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. It's going to be a tough year for him.
We shall see, gentlemen. But does he have the hair, Polamalu, by the way? Book. That's something that... Anyway, Brian, what else we got going this week? You mentioned a few things.
You also mentioned the Stanley Cup. We have the Colorado Avalanche who it's been a while since they've been there, but now they're back. Taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning, who seem to be there every year. They run that 1-3-1 zone that teams hate to go against because it forces them to go in the middle of the ice. Sid would know more about that than I would, though.
Yeah, it's old defensive hockey, but you know what? They have what I call the big cat. It's like the quarterback. It's like you got the go-to guy in the big cat, Vasilevsky, and the guy just doesn't lose. He's phenomenal, and it all starts when you build a team. You want to build it with the goaltender, just like you want to get the quarterback. You want to get that stud pitcher. That's where you start. And they're going for a three-peat. That hasn't happened since the 80s when the New York Islanders did it, the Islanders and the Oilers. So that's not easy, guys. But one little note, Pat Maroon, who's on that Tampa Bay Lightning team, has won a Stanley Cup. This will be 3 in a row for him, but 3 different teams, I think, if I remember right. I think one was St. Louis. Tampa Bay will be 3 in a row. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal on 3 different teams. But pretty crazy stuff. And that is, there you go, the big matchup tonight. Everybody's looking for that. Lord Stanley, it's tough championship to win. You got to win 16 games, boys. I know it's tough to win football and the other sports, but in my opinion, these guys, man, they're wrecked up going late in the year. I mean, then their season starts, their training camps start only like a few weeks later, in August. So it's not much layoff between winning that cup. So, but one other thing, tying this to football, on that Tampa Bay team, I got to mention him again, Steve Walsh's nephew, Ryan McDonough, and he hits like a linebacker. That guy can he lays out some bodies. So, Ryan, what else you got today?
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves going over to baseball, 13 straight wins in a row. They usually start pretty slow in the year and it ramps up. They ramp up when it gets to summer. So it doesn't shock me one bit there. 13 wins in a row. Not easy to do.
Not at all. And speaking of wins in a row, or just wins in a lot of wins, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up talking baseball. The major upset, the Golden Domers of Notre Dame defeating Tennessee. They were the all-world team. I think they had 56 or whatever, some ungodly amount of wins this year, and did not make it to the final 8. The road to Omaha was cut short by the Golden Domers. What are your thoughts on that, guys? What major upsets have you seen that you can believe, wow, that team did not make it to the next level at college level?
Well, I was going to say basketball. The Lakers, I thought they were shooing for basketball. But, to me, it's the big thing that really is coming out with all sports is when you're a team, you have to be a team. You can have all the marquee guys you want, but if the guys aren't willing to lay down for one another, sometimes you're not going to be the guy that gets all the stats. You got to be a role player, and that's what the essence of real team is. That's what we coach as coaches. We want to teach the kids, hey, sometimes it's you, sometimes it's not. And when it's not you, don't get mad, don't get upset. Just, push your buddy and make sure he gets where he's trying to get to. So it's an absolute testament that you have all the brand names you want. Doesn't mean anything. What matters is team.
Steve, I would dare to say, Steve, that given the fact that that we know that Tennessee, they are high rollers in the NIL side of football, I would venture to think that, hey, if they're doing it in football, the wealth has got to be being spread. So, hey, you figure that, hey, it's not on accident that Notre Dame comes in and spanks them real quick. Hey, maybe they're thinking about their NIL deal. Maybe they're thinking about the farm league. Maybe they're thinking about the draft. Who knows? But I got a sneaky suspicion that, their minds were elsewhere.
Most likely.
Yep, I agree with you on that. But it just goes to show you can have the best athletes in the world if you're not coming together as a team. It's a team effort to win a championship. And
they were a powerhouse. They were an absolute powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I'd be also remiss if I didn't mention Boomer Sooner, the fast pitch team, the softball team, women's team. Again, they actually came through. They were probably the best of all time. If you look at their team this year, just phenomenal. They won the national championship. And in that, before we bring it over to our guest, in that Omaha, of the 8 teams, I think there's 3. If Tennessee would have made it, would have been 4 SEC teams make it to the finals there for baseball, and that says a lot about that conference, man. I mean, it's not just football; they are good at everything. So, final thoughts before we go into our guest.
We're down south, so I mean, they got to be there in the heat. Most of those SEC schools, Nobody wants to be up here in the cold playing, in the Big Ten playing baseball. So I'll give them that. They down south, they better be darn good.
Good point. Good point. I hear you on that. It's tough to play baseball when it's frizzling or sleeting at your face and swinging a metal bat, and it's like it ain't easy on the hands. Trust me, I know. Growing up on the Canadian border, boys, it's tough. So, on that note, my high school team this year playing in the state final for the first time ever this Friday. So kudos go out to my Rosa Rams, part of history. So let's take a quick break. We're going to bring back our guest, Jason Strayhorn, talking a little bit of Sparty ball, talking maybe saving, talking like that now. The guy's in the know. He knows it all when it comes to college football. So let's take a quick break.
Of something that you just said, Steve. You said on game day, but also it's during the week. It's during practice.
Yeah.
A lot of us we're built that way where we compartmentalize things where we're having issues off the field. As long as we're in between those lines, in the locker room, at practice, game day, whatever, we can let those things go and just focus on football and focus on the job that we have to do. Whatever that job is. So, and once all that is taken away, now you don't have that escape. You don't have those hours that, okay, I can let go of the life and really focus just on what I'm doing on the field and get to life later. And now you're dealing with life.
And that was just a quick snippet of one of our former guests recently, BC Chamberlain, talking about life and football, kind of trying to juggle the two because it's not all about the sport. It's what you do off the field as well. So, we're going to bring on our guest, as I mentioned, Jason Strayhorn. Brian, do you have a little bit of background there? There's a Jason, Michigan State legend, also part of the State Board of Education. So why don't you talk a little about Mr. Strayhorn? Let's bring him in, and I'm going to throw it over to our Spartan dog, Eulish Booker, and we'll start talking Sparty.
Sure. Jason is a Michigan State legend, like the graphic says. Played center. He was the captain under Nick Saban. So when you're a captain under Nick Saban, you know your stuff. He is a member of the Board of Education till 2029, I believe. And his two sons are huge up and coming athletes. Hopefully, we'll see them soon in the college game. Jason, how are you doing?
Oh, no, we got muted us.
Yeah, still can't hear you.
I tell you what, the guy's got a podcast of his own. He's got to regroup there. Not used to this simple play stuff. Right. Yeah, it's probably just the headset there. What happened? The wild web. I call it the wild wild west, but we got the wild wild web too, because sometimes you never know what the interweb can do for you. So, but he'll be back in a second here. But no, speaking of some of his accolades, there you go. You got us now, Jason? Can you hear us? Yeah, man.
I can hear you. I hear you loud and clear. You got me.
Talk about the wild. We got you. We talk about the wild wild west, but sometimes I call it the wild wild web because you never know what the interweb can do. Sometimes it throws us a curveball. So, glad to have you on.
It does. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. I know we're all in different corners of the United States right now. I'm down in Austin, Texas. As you just talked about them. This is June. It's a wild, crazy month of June in college football and football in general. A lot of movement. This is when recruits now are taking their official visits and they're getting ready for their senior season of high school. And this is for prospects go out and camp and get in front of college coaches so that they can see them in person, meet them, put them through different tests physically, and then get a chance to see what kind of a kid these young recruits are. So we're in that process, enjoying that process with my two sons right now here in Texas. But glad to be here with you guys to talk a little college football, Nick Saban, Michigan State, all those things that are near and dear to my heart. I got my old teammate on this call here, Eulish Booker, my dog. Another Spartan dog. There he is, wearing them colors, baby.
He does wear that. He does wear that proudly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, as he should. Michigan State's definitely on the rise right now. I was just there this last week. Spent some time with Mel Tucker his family back at his house. I was there for the Jordan Hall. It was a big commitment in his home, like in front of about 150 people, man. It was beautiful. It was very emotional. And because it was kind of down to the wire with the guy. He's a IMG kid. He goes to school with my oldest son at IMG down in Bradenton, Florida. And, you know, it was a tight race between Michigan State and Florida. And, you know, he brought his mom, his grandmother, his father, and his uncle. And he just called, like, now you don't need ESPN anymore. Remember the day you used to have like the gym where you have your hats out there back in the olden days when I was getting recruited. That was the thing. You just do your letter of intent and take a picture and go home. Then it became the hat game, ESPN or your local news channel. Now you can just do Instagram Live, baby, whenever, and tell everybody, hey, big announcement coming up soon. People tune in, and then you make it, and it's there forever. Very special moment for him and his family, and it was good to see that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, guys, where do you want to go with this? And we can open it up. Book, I'm just going to throw it right to you, being the Spartan dog. You know, there's all sorts of topics we can bring up here with Jason. So, where would you like to start?
So first things first, Jason, thanks for being on, man. I really appreciate it. I will say my first encounter with Jason Strayhorn as a young defensive lineman. I started out as a D lineman, and of course, Steve, I wasn't there that long. Clearly, you know, I wasn't there that long.
You're on the dark side. Come over to the light.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I was too smart for that.
I'm already tolerating the sports thing. I'm trying to let that go by.
Right,
I'm going to be too much because I'm Big 12 or SEC now. So,
it's all in
anyway, go ahead.
So at any rate, man, I had never seen nobody that strong. You know, Jason's like 6'2". Everybody else is like 6'5", 6'6", 6'3". We got, man, listen, you know, down there, down low, boy. Woo. You know, when you at that time, I was, you know, scout team, whatever. Man, listen, you don't want to be in walkthrough at the one technique with Jason. Man, Jason put the paws on you, boy. You would thought he was down there from South Carolina on the farm, Steve. He was one of the best strong dudes. So that was my first experience with Jason Strayhorn, man. And I told Jason the other night, I said, man, I never saw you during the week. I said, you would just pop up at practice and be at practice on 1,000, you know? And so he was definitely one of our leaders at that period of my career, somebody I paid attention to and was able to learn pace because, you know, there's a transition from high school to college. You know, when you get in practice, in college and the league, everything is faster than what you think it is. And so, you know, Jason, obviously being a captain, being a leader of the offensive line, you know, and me being smart, you know, just shut up and watch, keep my mouth closed. You know, you're able to hone in on intangible things, and he's one of those guys that I was able to glean from as far as, you know, being physical and, you know, just taking care of business. So I'll segue into Nick Saban, Jason, because you were in like that first batch of Saban recruits. What was that like for you?
Well, you know, I'll tell you that as far as the recruiting process, I actually missed that with Nick Saban because I got recruited by George Perlis, and you know, went through the process in your year, not seventh grade year, by the way. It was, you know, I looked at the head coach, I looked at, you know, obviously the depth chart and things like that. One of the big things was, do they play on TV? Because that was a thing once upon a time. Do they play? How many times do you play on TV? So, you know, your friends back home, your family would be able to catch your games if they couldn't physically attend. And then you wanted to see security. You know, what coaches were going to be there for the long haul. I was at Ohio State, and all I saw was Fire Cooper signs everywhere. John Cooper was the coach. I was in Colorado. You know, McCartney, he was thinking about retiring. There was multiple time out there. Lou Holtz, you know, they kicked the guy off the team for being in a female's dorm after 9 p.m. Wasn't going to be the place for me. So then that's at Notre Dame. And so then I go to Michigan State, and it seemed like George Perlis just ran the show, man. I mean, he like had that whole campus on lockdown. I saw all the Rose Bowl championships and all the guys, first round draft picks. It was just like a place that just felt like home from day one. And, you know, with that intelligent, selection process I went through, midway through our season, George Prolis got fired in my freshman year. So I was wrong. And enter a guy by the name of Nick Saban, some defensive coordinator from Cleveland. And we were all like, who is this guy coming in here? And I knew that George Perlis being a very, very much a player's coach, very jovial, father-like figure. Let's keep things in-house and, you know, forget the rest of the world, that it was going to be a knee jerk. And so they brought in a different type of guy, a more disciplinarian guy, very, spirited, high attention to detail, fiery guy in a young Nick Saban. And I'll tell you what, but that first year, like with Nick Saban in winter conditioning, Ken Manny, you remember Ken Manny, our strength and conditioning coach, right? Somebody you probably still think about nightmares, if you want to call them not your dreams, your nightmare, because it was a special time, man. I mean, it was basically a weeding out process, right? New coaches come in and they want their guys in. So the guys who are left behind that aren't their guys, it can be a little tough. They want to see who's really going to be there. You know, those who stay will be champions. It's that thing on a 15 out of 10, really, as far as intensity is concerned, because Nick Saban just had it. He was just from day one. You knew there was something different about him. It wasn't fun. It wasn't comfortable. There was nothing about any of those days that were comfortable. Everybody was on edge all the time, and you saw guys leaving a lot. You did see guys leaving a lot. So, we're able to get through those times and make it into the starting lineup. Eventually, he wins against Michigan in his first year. There's a nice picture of Nick right there getting carried off the field in his first year, 1995. And, the rest is history when you think about what happened in the career of Nick, and we can get into more detail with that. But I was able to overcome those tough years, those grinding, trying to weed people out years, and make it to be a team captain for him and be a first team All Big Ten performer for Nick. And I talked to him, and he's mellowed a lot, but the guy is just a loyal guy, something that many people don't see from the outside. He doesn't talk much about that. He's always looking for the next win, the next recruit. But one of the best lessons that I've ever learned just in watching how he's conducted his business and how he treats others, a guy that's just second to none.
And if I may interject, I was going to ask you about that, the transition from when he was early on with you there at Michigan State into where he is today. How have you seen that transition, his development change as a coach? Because obviously we're talking, 90s, 2000s. Now we're 2022. I mean, there's a lot of changes. The internet wasn't back then. You see all the social things going, and of course, we'll talk about NIL a little later. But can you talk about what you've seen in him as far as his change and development? What guy wins, but personally, what are your thoughts on that? Can you give us a little tidbit?
Yeah. So with Nick, what I've seen from him is probably his biggest superpower is his ability to adapt. And what I mean by that, I've seen great coaches, come up with programs and they can win. They win championships and they have a style that is successful. And that doesn't mean though that you're going to continue to be successful, because if you understand football, people know the NFL is a copycat league, right? Well, football is really copycat if you think about it. And everybody looks at the NFL and it kind of trickles on down to the lower levels, lower divisions, college, high school, middle school, little leagues, and on. Now it's crazy now. The development from the 7-on-7s and 5-on-5s, it's constant. And if you're not constantly doing a self-introspective look and scout of yourself, like what you're doing and what teams are going to do to counter your success, then you're dead in the water. And that's something Nick Saban is a tireless, relentless, if you want to take Mel Tucker's words, actor when it comes to trying to find the next wave. You look at Nick Saban when he won his championship when he was with LSU. in his first title with Alabama, it was all power, running attack, play action. You know, the defense, the linebackers were all 6'4", 260 pounds. You know, it was smash mouth, and it was ground and pound with trying to get you over the top if people started getting 8, 9 people in the box. Quarterbacks weren't a big thing. Wide receivers, they weren't at a premium. And you look at what Nick Saban takes the field with now. Smallish linebackers, 5 wide receivers, 4 and 5 wide receiver sets, mobile quarterbacks, guys that can move and threaten you with their legs. You know, the linebackers, like I said, they can move and run. They're very versatile. Defensive backs, that's his specialty. You know, he says even in the NFL, it's hard to find 5. It's tough to get 4, but 5 defensive backs are very difficult to have. 5 very good defensive backs. So that's when you have 5 wide receivers or 4 with a mobile quarterback that puts so much pressure on opposing teams because you just can't do it. And this is the first time I've ever heard him say, because he used to say defense, you know, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. And this summer I asked him, does he still feel that way? And he said, I hate to say it, but I think a good offense can beat a great defense now. And that's the rules that have been, brought on by the different, changes as far as taking guys out with head to helmet. It's not the same football you played, Steve, right back in the day. So it's definitely more of a quarterback pass friendly football league or world than it was once.
Well, I want to kind of, say some things about it because I'm part of this whole coaching tree, and people gotta understand that Saban was there in Cleveland under Marty Schottenheimer. With Schottenheimer was Saban, what's his name? Belichick, Romeo Crennel. Yeah, Belichick, Romeo Crennel, and I'm trying to think there was one more that became a head coach. But that tree was black and blue. Who?
Wanstead.
Yeah, there you go.
Dave
black and blue,
Wanstead.
every one of them. Because again, this was downhill football back in that day. And I agree 1,000%. I'm coaching high school now, and I can tell you there is no black and blue. I mean, we're like as Belichick used to say, football goes in cycles, and it's a wheel that keeps spinning forward. You start out 3 backs downhill football, evolve to run and shoot. Now we're at 5 wide. Guess what? It's coming back around to downhill football. And the one thing he keeps in mind, as Belichick would say, as Saban has said, I've heard him say it many a time, don't ever lose that run game because that's the game. When it comes down to it, and that's what I've always seen about his teams is that they can always downhill. No matter how many receivers he puts out there, they can downhill football. And I like the analogy that's what I see as a coordinator. Defensive guys, we have to adapt. We don't have the option. If they come out and they're running all these different things, we got to adjust. And a good defensive coach is going to always adapt. So it's true testament that that science reigns true. That's clearly why he's winning championships over and over and over again in a relentless pursuit to find the best. So
when you talk about adapting, I mean, hell, Coach Saban I knew dance, let alone the Cupid shuffle. I mean, you'd be lucky if you get a high walking down the hallway. So, when Jason talks about adapting and, from the guy that we knew, that I knew, I mean, he was very intense just by his presence. You know what I mean? Watching how he handled coaches and our approach to the game. Saban was the first guy to bring in a psychologist, Lonnie Rosen. Strayhorn, he still uses him to this day at Alabama. Saban was big on playing the game before you played the game and the mental reps and all that type of stuff. And, much of that stuff, it carried over throughout my college career, even post Saban, all the way to the NFL. Everything was, really, trying to get the edge and, keeping the edge and, doing the different things. And, he always managed to keep us busy no matter what. You thought you were, around those holiday times, you think you're getting a break. Coach Saban, somehow, some way, I'm like, man, like, dude, does this ever end? Like, do we get a chance to like chill? I was Coach Saban.
Yeah, I was waiting. I
No.
was waiting. I was going to say I was waiting for Zach in the background to throw that video up him dancing because a couple podcasts ago I can't remember when we had it, but we talked about Saban and brought him up, and he was doing that shuffle at somebody's
Keep
home.
it shuffle. I said, damn, Coach Saban upgraded for real, boy.
So let's transition. Let me transition into something there. Speaking, how Coach Saban's evolved over time, but also how recruiting's evolved. And we won't use it as there. It is right there. His dance.
There it is.
Yeah, it's crazy to
Get
see
it,
that. But Jason, we talked about.
Hey, Book's been a good player, Book. That's all.
Now you see him doing it. It's like, look at Grandpa. He's 70 years old, right? And he's doing that. Whatever. But anyway, we digress. So let's start talking about a topic that's hot and heavy. I know MSU and everybody's involved with it. And right now, as a father, not much less, former player, you have two young athletes that are already being offered scholarships. And the word that's out there, it's all over state. Where I'm in here in Minnesota, they just actually awarded. They passed NIL for high school student athletes here in the adjoining state, North Dakota. And I can't remember the other ones. I think there's 11 or 12 now that have it. What can you tell us? What are your thoughts on NIL as far as the high school athletes and what's going on the college level? Because I'd be remiss if we didn't bring it up because people are asking about it.
Well, for me, like I'm applauding the fact that players are now having the ability to get paid. I know Book feels this way. I know Steve probably feels the same way, man. If it was this way when we were coming up, I mean, we felt like we earned it. I'm telling you, like the amount of work that goes into being a college football or college athlete in general, I don't care what sport it is, I mean, head and shoulders above what is required of most students. My wife wasn't an athlete in school, and she worked hard. She did. She worked hard. She worked jobs in order to try to pay off her student loans and things like that, and got her interns. But when she got out of school, she was better prepared for the real world than a lot of athletes are because of the work that we have to put in on a daily basis. What Book just talked about, he said, under Saban, you thought you had some time off on the, in the holidays, and it wasn't any of that. It was treatment. It was mental conditioning. It was conditioning, strength conditioning. You had to do spring ball. You had to do summer. It's always something, as you talked about with Bill Belichick, the wheel that keeps on spinning. That's a football career. That's big time athletics in anything that you want to be great at out of the classroom. So yes, they should be compensated for the work that they're doing. In fact, the NCAA, not the NCAA, but the Supreme Court has spoken. This is why you are seeing the NIL in the state that it's in right now, because there's justices waiting for you to come challenge. If the NCAA wants to act, and they have to tread now, because if they act and they misstep, it is already, the ground is already laid that the Supreme Court is going to judge in favor of the student athlete, because really they should be employees. Let's just face it, they should. The amount of work that they're doing, the amount of money that's being generated, they deserve a piece of that. They do. And the way that things are structured right now is kind of like the Wild Wild West, literally. That's why I like the name of this show. It really is the Wild Wild West, because where is it coming from? I mean, right now you have everybody talks about McDonald's or Coca-Cola coming in and sponsor, but that's not going to be the vast majority of the players. It's going to be the boosters right now that are, they may own their own company that want to sponsor a player or two. But then there's this whole idea of the collectives. This is when several boosters get together, they throw in money. I just saw yesterday that there's one school's collective that's up to $18 million in their collective. So what that does, that gives them a lot of buying power, if you will. There's someone between the boosters, or there's some way that they're finding out who the targets are. 247 Sports, Rivals, Max. They're finding out who these targets are, and they're going out. Some of these high-ranking high school players, rather, have handlers, they have trainers, they have sometimes it's their parents. I mean, they literally go out there and they solicit these
Advisors.
schools, the advisors.
Yep.
You know, I talked to a kid this past weekend at Michigan State who's very organized with it. He has agents and lawyers on the opposite coast that he's on that are, you know, fielding these questions for him. And, you know, this is what's happening when you have 5-star. That's the thing that Nick Saban talks about. He said that that's the way it should be. You should have agents representing you that go out and get these deals for you. But not many people are sophisticated in it. They're just flat out asking, hey, how much you going to give me? And that you know, that doesn't fly. That's the one thing that's the gray area. Coaches can't talk about that, but everybody else outside of the football building, basketball building, hockey, gymnastics, whatever it is, can talk to that prospective athlete and his family what it looks like to play at a prospective university. And, you know, I mean, I'm hearing, you know, $8 million for a quarterback down in Tennessee, as you talked about, Book. You know, they're $4 million for tackles, offensive tackles. Can you imagine that?
Wow, yeah.
In college?
Somebody says, I be joking all the time. If I got $10,000, all I got was Pell Grant. So that was $10,000, and half of that was spent day one because I went and got me some gear. So after I got my gear, I was at the bar, and that money was gone within 2 weeks.
Out the door. So Jason, what can you do? You know, let's look at it from your perspective as a parent. I mean, what can you do? And as a parent, what would you say to parents to help, you know, their kids, you know, get them ready for this new world of college? Well, let's say it's recruiting. I mean, it's not recruiting, but it is recruiting because that's what's going on. You know, for these athletes.
Yeah.
How would you get parents ready for this now? Because if you're even a 3-star, whatever, you're getting looked at and they're being thrown this, hey, come here, you know, from the boosters. Hey, we got Rev on, by the way. There's Rev. So what would you advise to, you know, parents out there?
I'd advise parents to really tread lightly, take it all in, really process things slowly, get someone on your team that you trust, that understands the game. The way that, you know, things that football players like, you know, Book and Steve that are on this podcast read, coach speak, and what personnel people are talking about, like, is totally different than I think a lot of people who have not been through the game, haven't played it, read what they're saying. And it's a different language. I mean, the way they move and talk is a little different. And you have to have somebody who is familiar with that process that can be honest with you. Because let's just face it, there's not a lot of honesty out there, especially when in the recruiting process. There are teams that will flat out lie to you, flat out tell you anything you want to hear to get you to sign. And then what are you going to do then? You think you can transfer, but it costs you a year at minimum. Once you sign, it's hard to get released from that scholarship. You have to play it out for a year. And if you're a person who thinks they can play right away, that can cause some angst with your career. So you need to do that. I wouldn't chase the money. Never do that. When you start chasing dollars, I mean, you get labeled bad, and it doesn't work out in the long run. You've seen guys who were doing this in the pre-NIL era. Guys who chase money. It doesn't always work, you know. So that would be my advice. Get somebody that you really trust that can help you and guide you through that process. You know, everybody's in a different financial position, and not everybody is flush with cash, and not everybody is dirt poor. So, you know, you have to understand everybody's financial position and be honest with what level your son or daughter is at athletically and what the true value of them they are. What is their true value? That's what you have to find out. I mean, everybody wants my kid's the best in the world and they should deserve, you know, $20 million, but that's not the reality, you know. So let's be very honest and find somebody that can be honest with you, and you know, you can have a lot of fun. And this is just the beginning. If you're in that NIL discussion, one thing that you can't do is stop working, because let me tell you something. Now, with the transfer portal, people think about that as something that's a positive, like, oh, you know, I can just leave whenever. You can also get cut whenever. Let's be real. So if you're getting paid and you're not up to par, there's a motto that I hear nowadays: compete to play, compete to stay. So that used to be kind of an SEC thing only. That's everywhere now, especially with people getting paid. So you're not gonna just
Oh, guys, did we lose the sound again?
Lost you again.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, we lost you.
Something
Go
happened
out,
with
come back in.
audio. Yeah, that's well odd.
Go out, come back in.
Yeah.
Yes, Sid. I was gonna add to what Jason was saying is that as he was saying, the whole idea of compete to play, compete to stay.
Yep.
That this is a way that the coaches will be able to control this whole. You back, Jason?
I'm here. That's
okay,
right.
Yeah, you go back.
Yeah. You have to. They can control the narrative now, because before, players may have busted. What I mean by that is they come in, they're not as good as we thought you were. Right? You come in, and okay. So what we'll do is, okay, you're hurt, right? Okay, so we'll give you a medical scholarship, and you can just go do your schooling, and you'll still be a part of the program, and have a nice life. There was no disruption. Now, no. You're coming in. If you're not up to par, we're going to send you down the road to, St. Mary's College, and we got 4 more guys coming in your position, like next week, not next year. We're not going to hope to get them out of the high school rank. We're going to get a kid from Auburn. We're going to get a kid from USC. We're going to get. This is where they're going now. So it's more professionalized than ever when you talk about the transfer portal and competing to stay university. So, be careful. What you ask for, you just might get it. They have it now. People are getting paid, but there's going to be casualties on the other side if you are not up to par athletically. And, we've seen that before. It's different systems may not fit certain guys. And if you don't know that, I think one of the most unfair things is that coaches can leave. And now, the guy that recruits you, or they leave, and then what? Now you're left holding the bag. You gotta stick it through. I went through that myself with my head coach, but it turned out to be that the guy who replaced him is the greatest coach of all time. But that worked out, right? But it doesn't always work out for you.
Hey, I was recruited by Andy Reid. I went to Mizzou because of Andy Reid. Andy Reid left that summer. I was going to play offensive line. I was going to play O-line. That summer, he goes to Green Bay to be the quarterback coach. Marty Morningwig stepped in as offensive line coach. Dirk Cutter, who invented the 5 wide.
Oh, yeah.
He did it. He put the 5 wide in, and because I came from high school where we ran the wishbone, I'm like, I don't want to run that mess. So I went to defense.
Casualty. It worked out okay for you, though, Steve.
It worked out. The point is that when I talk about a hill to climb, oh my God, Stone's going to turn everything around.
That's a big hill.
He might have known. You might have thought, well, what about this Martin kid? What did I get myself in? I got to get out of here. I don't know why I recruited this guy. Just kidding.
Well, the amazing thing was just the coaching tree that came out of that school. Dirk Cutter, Andy Reid, Marty Morningwig, Ken Flagel, all those guys became – Flagel's over here in Kansas City right now with Reid. I mean, all those guys came out of Mizzou. And literally nothing against Stoll, but he had probably the best coaching staff in college football, just didn't know it. So, I'm with you 100%, but that's the purpose of what we're trying to do, to bring us together to start talking the conversation so we make the conversation healthy. Look, we don't want all these agents and people that are just in here pariah just to feed off of the young when they come in. We don't want that. We want it so that, look, I got my sons, you got your kids that are going through this process. I don't want them to run into this thing and get chewed up like a buzz in the buzzsaw that happened to us when we came out of college. Because when you walk in the NFL, at least if you're 22, you got a chance. But when you're 18, holy hell. I couldn't even imagine having 500,000, 50,000, 20,000 going in. I lived off of $300 a month, and 200 was rent. So I couldn't even imagine having that kind of money that early in my career. Would be unbelievable to do this without some support. So we want to kind of put together this forum so we can have it so that we can put people at every school that can kind of mentor. And it's the alumni that's going to do it, because the alumni cares. They care about the school. I'm mad at the NCAA for what it's worth. I was mad when I was in college trying to, buy diapers for my son, and I go to Target and they got a jersey on sale, number 98. It didn't have my name on it, but everybody in Columbia knew who the hell number 98 was.
And that's the thing. We know it's a long time coming, and not just D1 guys, because if you play D2 or D3, you can take advantage of this as well. I want to stress that there is a lot of good things happen out there, and just because I'm a D3 student or a D2 athlete doesn't mean I can't work my butt off and get these NILs as well. You look at the summit. I'm going to hopefully have on the king of the NIL and D3, as he calls himself, and the king in Norfolk State. He had 66 NIL deals because he worked. And you know what? I'm going to hire a guy like that because he worked his butt off. He's not a 5-star athlete. He's a Norfolk State. Threw his name out there, got many, many denials, and boom. Yep, that's the guy right there with Cream Smith. He actually won an award at the NIL, so we'll hopefully get him on at some point. But going back now, we kind of digress with this, and that's the way I got to herd the cats, bring them in, reel them in, let's go back to your personal stuff. If you don't mind me asking, your sons, they're young still. Have they been approached at all? Have anybody inquired them because, they're being asked or giving offers already from any NIL type of deals? Just, you don't have to go into detail, but have you been approached by someone already at their age?
So, so what happened, I'll tell you so my son got recruited to go to IMG. We were in the state of Michigan. He went to school at Detroit Catholic Central in Novi, great school. And he had his first year as a freshman there. And at the end of that season, by the grace of God and people on this call, on this podcast, IMG just shows up and says, "Hey, we like this your son." And when we evaluated that, wow, and this is a great opportunity. Almost seemed too good to be true. And in the process of getting ready to sign and make that commitment with IMG, some teams out west, the modern days out on the West Coast, St. John Bosco, Los Al, who has 3 5-star players. One is the number 2 player in the nation underneath Arch Manning, which is Malachi Nelson. This is a phenomenal quarterback. Yeah. Him and my son, we're talking almost daily. He's recruiting him to come out to California. And in that process, we found out that there are not only NIL opportunities in college, but in high school as well. And, they're paying guys out there, these quarterbacks. It's not uncommon to see sophomore juniors in high school making $250,000, $300,000, $500,000 in high school.
And that leads me to think that there's going to be some states jumping where you see kids going to these states because this is, and we booked and I talked about this. Ohio, which is football hotbed, turned it down. So are those athletes going to go to the IMGs in Florida or wherever? And I think we might start seeing that. They're right there. They're a good poll there, Zach, pulling that up right now. I don't know what that date is, but you see those states. What would it be? Which one's California? I think Florida is one, but the ones in yellow, does that say if they're
Florida just had filed a lawsuit about 2 months ago to join the party because if California's in it, I'm telling you, Texas and Florida have to be close behind, or else they will have a mass exodus. We did move to California. It wasn't for that reason. It was for my younger 2 children, my son and daughter. There's an academy out there very similar to IMG, and it was for development, being around. Let me tell you, it's one thing to be an external pressure type of parent and trying to drive your kids to do things. That stuff just doesn't work, man. I'll tell you that. It won't work long. They're not going to perform well. They're going to, this is something that my kids literally wrote speeches for me at dinner for whatever. I'm like, guys, stop. No, Dad, we want to. They were begging for these opportunities, and my wife was, God bless her. She's the one that's like, we need to do this for them. I'm like, how? There's one in Florida, one in California, two in California. How can we do this? She said, we're gonna make it work. And we moved to California with the other two. In the process of doing all that, we got a place there, and but I still have business in Michigan. I still work at Michigan State. I do broadcasts there, so it's kind of hectic for me. But I just, one of those things. My dad always said, "Hey, look, just keep going until you can't go anymore, man. Just go." I think that there's going to be doors that open up because of it, and lo and behold, things have worked out so far. And yeah, the NIL thing, that's not something that we're worried about at this point in time. I think that all that stuff takes care of itself. The main thing for my children is just to do the work and be the best version of them they can be, and I can't stress that enough, guys. I don't want to, I get a lot of flack because I think my sons went to University of Michigan this past week for a visit, and they took some pictures. Dad caught a lot of heat for that, but look, man, like when it's them, like it wasn't even the same. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close to the same. It's like when I go there, just even doing broadcasts, or I go there by myself, I don't even go to dinner out there really. It's a dip, but when it's your kids, it's like, man, let them enjoy this process, man.
There it is.
Look, we need that, Zach. We need that, Zach. I knew you were going to do that.
I mean,
yeah.
Hey, look, man.
Hey, but Stray,
it was tough.
Hey, Stray, like I said, hey, let's get it in early, out of sight, out of mind, down the road. We don't have to do this again. It's already done. Then we got 2 more years, so let them be great. I got no problem with that. It's the kids.
3 more years. Wow.
Wow.
3.
Oh, no, you back.
Man.
Huh? I'm out?
You good.
Yeah.
You good.
Okay. 3 more years, man. And then, so, yeah, my 2 are the class of 25 and class of 27. So have at it. Have fun. Enjoy this process, man. I mean, to me, I'm blown away with, like, you guys serious? And they offered my oldest son last year, and then my 7th grader this year. So they're competing with each other. Like, I'm going to do better than you. I'm going to be stronger than you. I'm going to be taller than you. I'm going to be better. So they're in the hotel room down the hall doing that right now as we speak. All the way here on the plane, they're competing for everything you could think of. But as a dad, I'm like, stop it. But deep down, I'm like, man, I like this.
Let's talk about that for a second.
I like the
But we're talking 7th grade. I see it in hockey. I'm in the state of hockey here in Minnesota. And you see young hockey players committing, even 13, whatever, crazy. But 7th grade, Jason, 7th grade, isn't that too young to be an offer? And shouldn't there? I mean, that's young. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's young. I've seen it though. I've seen quarterbacks get offered at that age. That's not uncommon. I've seen that before. Because look, it's hard to explain it when you haven't seen it. Case in point, the academy that my son goes to in California, same academy that Bryce Young attended, who's the Heisman Trophy winner. Okay, I told Mel Tucker, I said, guys, whenever you're on the West Coast, you need to come check this place out. And I know, they're like 7th and 8th grade, man. I'm like, look, just do me a favor. Whenever you have time, if it's too much, don't worry about it. Do it. So long story short, they show up, him and his recruiting coordinator. They just show up on the scene, just looking around. And guess who's there already? Bill O'Brien, watching kids. Bill O'Brien, by the way, is the current offensive coordinator for Alabama, was a head coach in the NFL for the Texans, Houston Texans, and also Penn State. He's there scouting those kids. Okay? You're talking about it's too early. Look, if you're not doing it, you're in the dust. That's what I'm telling you. Because
I think it goes back because of the times have changed. I mean, back when we were kids in the 60s and 70s, the athletes now are so much. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I always look at when we're talking about when we're talking about athletics, we're talking about scholarships and academics and sportsmanship. The one opportunity at the amateur level that has never been afforded these athletes who get hurt, something bad happens, is financial opportunity.
Bottom line, the thing we're looking at is what about gymnastics? It's
Right.
been this way for forever. You know, they try you out 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah,
See
you're
if
right.
you're ready for gymnastics, and you're ancient by the time you're 22.
Yep.
So I mean,
Oh, man.
it literally just coming over to this sport. The money's already there. We're not.
That's right.
NIL money is money that already exists in the system. They're just paying it to the players. So, and again, we still ain't talking about Vegas money. That's it makes it exponential.
The V word. Yep.
I'm telling you, that's the thing. And so, you know, that's like I said, having the healthy conversation and getting people like you, Jason, and others to start coming together and say, hey, let's mentor these folks so that they're not out in the woods trying to figure this out, because you're going to get that shifty agent. I've dealt with several of them. My senior year coming out of college, agent stole my flight, my ticket from my damn my little book, and told me, hey, come over to our agency and we'll get you another ticket. It's like, no, but I'm gonna go ahead and get me a ticket from the ticket counter. And it's back when they printed tickets, you know, once upon a time. But the thing is that the feeding on the meek is the problem that we don't want to see, and we want to get these kids that have these natural talents, and that's what that's why they're scouting them at 7th and 8th grade, because they're seeing this kid. Here's a Randy Moss. Here's a Rob Woodson. This is the kind of person we want. Well, if you can identify them in 7th, 8th grade, and I've seen them. I got in my neighborhood that my son done played with that are those kind of kids. My son's a fantastic athlete, but these kids, holy hell, they got some talent.
Now, Book, you're going to say something there, Book, because we're getting up on the top of the hour, and we
I just want to say as we get to the top of the hour, kudos to Jason. When you talk about having good people in your village and in your network, take advantage of those people, man, to give your kid the best chance for success. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid. I mean, I can personally say, you know, about Jason, you know, with his 2 sons. Hey, listen, man, he lets me chime in, you know, at any moment, you know, anything that's going to help his kids be successful. Hey, man, he's going to take that advice. I mean, now not everybody has, you know, 2-time NFL championship guys on, you know, on speed dial. You're talking to him 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but Jason does. You know what I mean? And so when you have those type of resources and relationships, take advantage of it. Parents, see, what parents got to understand is you're a parent. You have to get somebody that's in this fraternity, and it's not familiar, because you'll get slighted. There's information that you won't get if you're not in the family. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to reach out to people that know what they're doing. That's what this Simple Plays is about. It's about putting the information out there in an equitable manner. Hey, listen, we're not trying to rob anybody. We want to give the best opportunity for student athletes and their families as possible, versus, you know, all the vultures, you know, coming in and sucking and taking and, you know, having a bad experience, creating a bad experience.
Great. Well, you know what? We're up to the top of the hour. We should take a break. I know we're waiting to see if Will pops on, but love to keep Jason. It looks like you're able to stay on for a while, because when we have some more, we'd like to take and spin off of this, because this is the key to what we're trying to do here: spread the word about the good things we're trying to bring mentors on like you to discuss the good side. It's not all about those back rooms like back in the day where they're bringing bags in, and now it's coming out with a Gucci bag. But there's a good side that we'd like to get this and really help with the financial aspect, the mental aspect, talking about what we can do to help families out there and young student athletes. So let's take a quick break, our top of the hour break, see if where's Will's coming back on, or see where he's at. He's not here yet. Maybe he's in the background. I don't know. But we'll see where Will's at. We'll take a quick break and come back after this and talk more.
Spartan Global Network, a platform that will provide various types of useful lifestyle products and services that will help people in need. Spartan Global Network, in conjunction with Affinity Consumer Alliance, presents an online subscription-based platform that's bundle inclusive, based on level selection. Spartan Global Network provides access to unique insurance coverages for you and your family. Mobile phone breaks down? Our mobile rescue plan covers more than 15 common repairs and even water damage maintenance. Car broke down while on the road? We offer 24-hour roadside assistance to make sure that you are safe and covered in the event of an emergency while on the road. Going for travel? We are able to offer our members discounts on flights, hotels, rental cars, vacation packages, cruises, and more. So, what are you waiting for? Visit our website for more info at SpartanGlobalNetwork.com.
And we're back. Thank you for that quick break. That is Books Company there, Spartan Network. Ironically, it's a Spartan Network, by the way. But well, we're kind of winding down here, Jason. I just wanted to give you the last few minutes here before we let you go. I want to talk about what you're doing now. That was it, Friends of Detroit. If you can just talk a little about that, kind of, give yourself a little, plug here, and maybe a little bit of the pod and where they can find you, and what else you got going down the road here. Oh no! Oh, the sound. What's going on that side there? We lost you. He's back. He'll be back in a second, though.
Well, Book, you could probably talk about, I was going to ask Jason this. What does it mean that you got, speaking of Michigan State, that you guys got Mel Tucker locked up long term?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say for me personally, until Jason gets back in, having a guy like Mel, and the way it worked out, and Jason probably has more background. He asked the question, what does it mean to have Mel locked up for the next 10 years or so?
10 years.
I would say it's the building of something special. Look at Georgia's defense this year in the national championship game, and think about Michigan State in about a year and a half or two.
There you go. That's accurate. He recruited a lot of those guys on that team at Georgia. So when he was the defensive coordinator there 4 years ago, so he's a dynamic recruiter, dynamic guy, Mel Tucker. So, but to one thing I just wanted to not forget. I'd be remiss because Steve brought up a point earlier, something about a coaching tree. He talked about a coaching tree, which is something that your layman parent has no clue what that even means. They don't understand that. They don't get that, that stuff actually matters, where these guys come from. These are things that like I love this discussion, this community that you guys are going to bring together to talk about and to educate parents on this, so that as they go through the process of this NIL era, it's very important, to learn what these things mean and affect you, and how to trust whatever system that you're going to eventually play in, or whatever institution you end up with. But you asked me about my what I'm doing now, as a state board member elected for the State Board of Education for the state of Michigan. I have a lot about statistical possibilities for children, and for me, when in a collaborative study, that a child, if they've seen one teacher that is a reflection of them by the time they're in 5th grade, and if they see 2, it's exponential, it's off the charts, more likely to graduate from high school. Because, let's face it, some of these kids, they just never see anybody like them in their schools. And when you see that, you're an African-American kid of color, you're from an impoverished area, and all you see is people that don't look like you. You don't think that's for you. You don't, they don't really understand you. Your brain hasn't fully formed. So you don't understand, like, hey, this is just, I'm supposed to be here living in this, and I don't have more to strive for. So with Friends of the Children is an organization that I belong to now. I'm on the board there. Steve St. Andre, one of our large boosters at Michigan State, great guy. Him and Matt Ishbia are the ones who have gotten together and helped with Mel's salary, that contract you just talked about, the 10-year, $95 million deal. He introduced me to this particular charity, And when I sat down with the chairman, Harry Cohen, I mean, I immediately fell in love with it. I mean, it was something. Steve St. Andre, Teresa St. Andre, she's on the board. She sits on the board with me. And what they do is they go after the worst of the worst. Kids that are in bad situations, like lost both parents, one parent's in jail, prison, one's not around. They're being raised by almost foster children, but they're bouncing around from house to house. And what they do is they go out and they find advocates for them, friends that take care. They're paid. They spend 5 to 6 hours a week with them, like daily. They're in class with them. They're at their home. They're doing homework with them. They're going to the park with them. They're doing things. They're like a paid family member, if you will, that follows them from the age of 5 all the way through graduation. So 12 years. 12
Wow.
years, kindergarten, K through 12. This is what the funding is. It started out in Seattle. I believe Paul Allen was one of the guys that started this particular group, and it is branched off. Now it's in the city of Detroit, and it is a great, great cause. I mean, you're seeing the impact of these children that would normally slip through the cracks because there's pretty much no chance, and they're giving them a chance, and that's all it's about. These kids just having a chance at life the way that they should, being exposed to things that they otherwise wouldn't. It's a very, very worthy thing for me, and that's what I'm doing right now. And so there's the website. You can take a look at it, myfriendsdetroit.org.
And that's exactly what I wanted. Yeah, this is the type, you're the type of person that we're trying to get involved, and we're building these relationships to be mentors for these student athletes, to show them the way, because you're paving the way because you've been there. And whether you play professional level sports, college sports, or just, been around, coaching, whatever, a guy like me did broadcasting, played D3 sports. That's why we wanted to have you on. I appreciate you taking the time tonight to come on with us. Love to maybe keep in touch with you, have you on again in the future. And again, Jason, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night. With those two in the background there probably going out, you got to probably go be referee, right?
I was going to say that.
Go
Yeah,
give them some
like
food.
all those nice things that Jason was saying. Those are all Spartans, by the way. Yeah, friends of Detroit. Brian St. Andre. Those are Spartans.
All Spartans. Good plug there, Booker. Good plug there, Mr. Bookish. Booker. Who's Booker? Books. Spartan dog. Spartan dog. All right. Well, we're gonna bring our Where's Will episode coming up.
All right,
Will's at. So, Jason, thank you so
Jason.
much for coming on. Let's keep in touch. Take care and best to you.
Thanks, Jason.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you.
Let's just jump right into it. Yeah, Rev, what do you want to jump in? Just jump right in. Let's talk about the book. I mean, let's get on it right away.
Sure.
A lot of times folks, they bring guests on the show, and the last thing they get to pitch is what they're on there for. I said, hey, let's talk about the book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 2004. And obviously that team was absolutely stacked. I mean, I realize you guys did a little coaching, but when you had Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams and Jason Campbell and Jay Ratliff, I mean, it makes it a little easier, doesn't it, Coach?
Yeah, you get real smart real fast when you got those dudes, man.
That's right.
I was in Indiana, and my IQ was about 2. I went to Auburn, and my IQ just shot through the roof.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt. I mean, but I'll tell you something about those guys. So, and I talk about this in the book, is it was not just talent. It was talent. Don't get me wrong, because you can't get to first base without it. But those kids were unselfish. The high-profile players were unselfish. They didn't seem to care who got the credit, and they were tired of losing when I got there. They'd had expectations that were beyond what they met, and they decided, Coach, guide us, give us a chance, we want to win. And they gave a lot of stuff up from accolades-wise to win 13 games. Now, at the end of the day, it all paid off because, Ronnie Brown played a little fullback, which he'd never done in his life. But because he caught 35 passes, they drafted him second in the draft, which he'd never done. They found a skill that he always had but was never explored. So that was just a huge part of the whole deal.
And that there was a little tidbit from our last guest, Al Borges, talking about his time there in coaching field and a little bit about his book. So Now, where's our Will episode? There he is. There's the man, the myth, the legend, Will Stein.
What's up, gentlemen? Eulish is always bringing Sparties, it looks like. It looks like you had a good conversation from Strayhorn, from what I could see from a little bit. Sounds
Absolutely.
like Sid's alma mater Rams are going to the state baseball championship at Target Field on Friday. So
Yeah.
congratulations to Sid and his alma mater and all that kind of good stuff. So I wanted to first acknowledge that. So this week, obviously, it's the week of the U.S. Open. I got golf stuff on, as you can tell. It's in Boston, Massachusetts, at the Country Club in Brookline. A little history about that: 1999 Ryder Cup, which is nifty when the U.S. came back from pretty much impossible probability to win. If you had to ask me this week, I'm going to give you my reveal on who wins the U.S. Open, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
My U.S. Open winner is going to be Will Zalatoris. Number one, because he has the same name as me, which is awesome.
Will, yeah, there you go.
Number two, he looks like Happy Gilmore's caddy. And with Happy Gilmore coming from the East Coast, Boston Bruins, all that good stuff, Happy always had a Boston Bruins jersey on. So
I thought you were going to say he looks like Happy Gilmore himself.
Can we get Bob Barker to the show? Can we get a little?
What?
Can we get Bob Barker?
The price is wrong, bitch. Oh, you've had enough? Now you've had enough.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Hey, so are you looking? You're not going this weekend to the? Are you going to be over there in the western suburbs for that BC deal or no?
Well, so I can't get that night off for the Byron Chamberlain thing. So unfortunately, that is a pass, because I thought I had everything all situated to go to that Byron Chamberlain thing, but I sent Byron a message last night to see if they're going to be around after I get off. They said they should be. Byron leaves on the 19th, so I hope to catch up with them. But it's a great event to go to. If I could get the time off, I would go. But one big thing that's coming up next week, it's in good old Stevie's neck of the woods in Kansas City. Big Slick. Stevie should go to that. He might.
Big Slick.
So it's like
What's that?
it's a big fundraiser that supports the St. Jude's Foundations of the Kansas City area. So there's like a celebrity golf softball game. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that is going on at
You
the
said next
conference
week?
center.
Yes,
It's next week, the 24th and the 25th. And there's a few people
My
from
class reunion is next week. That's why I wasn't going.
Got you.
Sorry.
Hey, I'm just trying to look out for you, pal.
I appreciate it.
But
yeah, I actually know some guys that are probably going to be there.
Yeah. Well, I might have to make that token appearance next week then if you can't make it over to Byron's thing. I'll do a little hobnobbing for you, Will. Pinch hit if I have to.
Hey, you can always pinch hit. Maybe your Rams will be state champions.
Yeah,
by that time.
I will be in the cities that weekend. Graduation parties and, of course, hopefully championship title parties I'll be attending.
TK's going to be at that event, isn't he, Will?
It's Robert Griffith, Byron Chamberlain, Bryant McKinney, excuse me.
Right.
Chester Taylor and Robert Tate. Those are the guys that are going to that.
Taylor's back in town. Yeah. Hey, Bryant McKinney's making a lot of press right now about his never giving up a sack in college. So it's been going around the airwaves down there in Hurricane Land. So
well, that's why he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, right? That's why he's going into the College Hall of Fame this year.
But who's going to go up to him? Who's going to go up to him and tell him that they got a sack on him?
Yeah,
I've done it. I didn't survive long.
Well, and we might have some talk about Hurricaneville too coming up, and then last segment with NIL talk, more NIL talk.
But that's my prediction with the U.S. Open. That's where I would love to be in Boston this week for that too. But I believe that Will Zalatoris is going to be a U.S. Open champion. So -4 is probably going to win it. It's not going to be an easy course, but Bryant McKinney not allowing a sack in college, that's pretty impressive.
Okay, well, if I do make it out there, I will have to ask on that, and I'll make sure I'm very far away distance-wise.
I'll load you with a couple other questions he likes to answer too, but you're going to have to be at least 10 feet away when you ask him.
All right, I'll make note of that. I think Troy's going to be. Troy's going to be there. He said so. We'll see if we can bump into each other out there. Well, we're excited to have your segments because I know you're going to be ramping up. Right now, it's kind of the off season for Will.
Right.
It's kind of a little bit of golf here, a little bit of golf there, meaning playing golf. I see.
Of course.
And getting geared up for when he really starts ramping up this fall.
And just a couple things too. So when I'm revealing destinations on where I'm going to be over the season, super fans on that team on their host city, so then we can talk about this city showcase. Where can I go eat the best steak? Because Stevie likes steak and whiskey and all that kind of good stuff.
Perfect.
At least
we'll get
what
some
I've
of
been told. Maybe
he likes anything cold. Let's see if we can get some of those college super fans going this fall too. Well, because that'd be interesting.
Got you.
But I see. Yeah, I'm sorry. Troy's going to be at the Big Slick, so I didn't see the lineup, so I'm sure there was a surprise because usually I look at who's attending, as far as like different bands or guests and appearances. But I didn't see a list that was going to show up, so maybe it's just random surprise. But be interesting. So, be kind of cool to check that out. So, well, yeah, we're always pleased to have you on.
I'll find out about Big Slick probably by the end of the weekend, and if I'm going, I'll reveal that next week.
Good deal. Good deal. So
That's good.
We're gonna wind down here and come back after a quick break. We'll finish up with our NIL talk, and looking forward to having you on as the season gets closer. Will.
All right. Cool.
I can't wait. I was on quarterback, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. So truly, what was really the background, the motivation for you to take and come out with this book? I mean, besides, I love the title because 13-0 and you don't win national championships. Something's wrong there, but tell us about that. What really pushed you to get behind this?
Guys, this is what's funny, Sid, is I didn't have a book on my radar. I wouldn't write a book. I took my kid back to Auburn to see the Iron Bowl because he wants to go to Auburn. He's 17 years old. He's starting to look at schools. He was about 4 or 5 when we were there, but he never lost that passion for Auburn. All his buddies are Michigan fans, but he's watching Auburn baseball, basketball, football. He knows recruiting. He's just on it, So I said, you know what? Let's go. Try and pick the best environment to see the school. And I couldn't think of anything better than Iron Bowl. So I took him back there to watch a game. Had great seats. Tim Jackson, associate AD there, got us great seats. But when I got there, I did a radio show with Jason Campbell and Ronnie Brown. But it was like I never left. I mean, I had fans coming up to me in my seat, coming up to me as I'm walking up. I mean, it was just, it was great for my ego, But when I got home, I got to thinking. I said, well, number one, my son really wants to go to Auburn now, But number two is
And that was a quick snippet of Al Borges talking about his motivation on his book, Denying of the Tiger. So, guys, we're winding it down here. We're using the last segment to finish up. We talked a little bit with NIL, just some comments from Jason Strayhorn, but let's talk about NIL events this week. I want to bring it up. I don't know if we brought it. We were talking about prior to going on live tonight. I heard Ross Dellinger from SI talking about on another podcast about how Miami and John Ruiz, who's throwing out all the millions and gazillions of dollars, he was being interviewed or investigated or just to talk to by the NIL NCAA enforcement team. thoughts?
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey man, I don't care. Come on in, let's talk. I got no problem. But he's kind of a salesman. He's got
Uncle Luke alone. They left Uncle Luke alone down in Miami. They just went to this guy because probably he didn't have the dobies that Uncle Luke had. Listen, the NCAA can send as many police officers as they want on their crackdowns. Here's the thing. They should have got out in front of this. They didn't. They chose to be passive. This is now an aggressive front, and they're going to try to go behind and try to collect what it is whatever they would deem to be an impropriety and indiscretion. Well, listen, this is a wild, wild west. Meaning the only control you have is over your name, image, and likeness. Now, where I'm going with that is, and here's the point. You were passive, and now it's aggressive, and now you want to try to get aggressive. Too late. It's about 6 months past where they should be, and now if they start sending people out, the only thing they're trying to do is start fires and maybe make a few press points. But that should have been handled at least 6 months ago. That's my opinion.
Or even before they even coming up on a year now.
And that's why I say
they're going to lose every case. Go ahead, Go ahead.
And that's why I said if the NCAA is smart, what they will do is what we've been talking about is connect and collect with some of the big boys in the hedge fund and the financial services arena, like the Goldman Sachs, and lobby to pay or compensate these players, because these athletes, because it's no longer NIL. I've stopped calling it NIL, and I've just went straight to player compensation, because that's where we're headed at. You know what I mean? And so from here on out, this is the wild, wild west of the NIL. But at the end of the day, player compensation is where we need to be moving at. And if the NCAA is smart, they'll jump on that horse right now and team up with the credible entities to lobby to start compensating these players. At least start talking about it. If you start talking about it, that takes the nasty stigma of the last 100 years or so of indentured servitude towards the athletes. Now, oh, wait a minute, the NCAA wants us to get paid? Oh, that puts them in a totally different light. So, if they're smart.
You're right on that book, and here's what they can still come out smelling like roses if they're smart, and you make up some very valid points. If they say, "Hey, we were late, we were on. This should have happened a long time ago," but get with these right people and make it right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. So, one other thing I want to bring up,
get that kind of respect, Sid, is if they bring in the right people. You know, the idea of bringing in a bunch of lawyers that have never ever played it down, never put their fingers in the dirt, never been recruited. These are the jackals out there that scrape up and make a whole lot of murky water. If you're going to go to battle, if you want to find somebody, let's use this analogy. If I'm going to have a Mercedes, I need to find somebody who can work on my Mercedes. Meaning, I can't find Dodge or Chrysler, somebody like that. So the point is this: I've got to find people who have gone before me, who understand the entire culture, the ethos. And listen, this is if you want to say, it's like the mini National Football League. Once you put money in the game, the only people that really understand this are players and coaches. That's it. So if you don't have players and coaches, formerly or current, on your side, you're going into whatever decision with half the talent you need.
Yep. And let's be honest, the money is there, more than there. If you look at what these conferences are getting from TV, and it's just crazy, and it's going to continue to rise. So speaking of lawyers and such, I want to hop into one other topic just real quick, kind of converse about this. I saw an article in the NIL on 3NIL, and as far as the newsstand says, and this was, I believe, 8 hours ago, coming from Louisiana. Louisiana governor signs law to give NIL collectives more power. They start talking about it in the SEC, another state in the SEC footprint. about, they removed the prohibition of schools from directly and indirectly arranging for third parties to provide compensation to student athletes. They talked about it and they finally put it into effect. Governor John Bell Edwards reportedly signed it today, Wednesday, the 15th of June. So giving more
That
power.
cool. They trying to get that money down there to them Bayou Tigers.
Yeah, they are.
They tired of Bama beating up on them Tigers. They got to get that bag in there to them boys.
Oh, there you go. Oh my goodness. Well, speaking of that SEC stuff, the Bama boys, I think they just had another collective too, gentlemen. Several Alabama players joined a new NIL community called Big A Legends. So they got something going down there too. So they're getting it going. They're getting on that track, that fast track. They're going F1 speed. They're not quite F1 speed, but they're starting.
Trust me, that Elephant Club. They down there in the kitchen, and they ain't just cooking food. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So
old Nick sounded the alarm the other week, so trust me, they're on top of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, ring that bell.
I love your analogies, Book. That's why you're viewed. Spartan Dog coming through big again. So I article too. Darren Heitner again. He's a lawyer, but he's been very proactive in what's going on in the NIL. And he was one of the speakers. And let's hope that we can get some of these in the trenches, meaning in the working with the athletes for the betterment. And hopefully Cody Wilcoxon or maybe Darren Heitner will come on down the road and give us a little recap of the NIL Summit. So, guys, any other thoughts? And we're kind of winding down. I want to keep it top of the hour, end of the hour, winding down our hour and a half. As far as any other NIL topics that you would like to discuss before we kind of finish up here and get final thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to say that, NCAAs, they did what they did. You can't, we talk about all the time, can't put toothpaste back in tube. So at this point, the only place it's going to go, I say it all the time, collective bargaining, because you're going to start with the premier guys, the top 5-star, 4-star athletes. That's who you're going to start with. But again, once you start getting into there's 114, 115 Division I schools, 200 and something Division II, countless Division III. I mean, you start getting into these things, you have to come up with a standard way of doing business. That's what it's going to have to be. Otherwise, you're going to have one kid making $10 million and then everybody else making $5,000. That's not going to last long.
No, they're going to rob the kid that made that.
It's inevitable. It's going to have to get to collective bargaining. I mean, look.
I need that now.
I was mad as hell when I came in and I made $131,000, and I looked down the line. There was a first-round pick, 2 veterans. All of them made my salary in 1 week. And that's the NFL.
Yeah.
So college is going to be the same thing. And you're going to start having it. So the best thing to do, NCAA, please listen. We're trying to help you. We're saying bring your alumni back for every school and have them mentor these kids and families. We've been there. We've done it. We know this game. We see this whole thing, how it's going to map out. So wake up and just go ahead and have that humble pie. It's nasty, but you're going to have to eat that and say you've made a mistake and now you got to fix it.
Yep.
And we're here to help.
So we've seen some things come across the screen there. They showed the sports, and obviously football came up as the highest, basketball seconds, and then the rest, going even down to my sport, hockey, was like 0.1, not even 1% involved with NIL. So there's a lot of room there. And this year's competition. What's that, Brian?
That's going to change eventually.
Yep. No, you'll see that. And I actually am going to reach out to an advisor / agent, talk about that a little bit with what he's got going. And there it is right there, total compensation by sport. 49%, 50%. Oh, is it 49? Yeah, almost 50% football, 17% basketball, men and women, 16. And the rest kind of just from there to really low. But as you mentioned, we'll see that change. Hockey's 0.2%. So we're winding down here, guys. Anything else as far as topics or thoughts before we let you go? And we'll get your final thoughts on anything else NIL related, gentlemen.
I say let's get right to final thoughts.
Yep, I agree with you. We kind of hit home on a few things. You know, the Miami aspect, I really want to hit on that. We talked about it. So, but let's go right to you, Book, right off the shoot. Let's go straight to you and your thoughts, because you were the man tonight with Spartan Dog, with your fellow Spartan Dog, Jason Strayhorn.
Hey man, I had a lot of fun tonight, just from Strayhorn's experience, having two kids right in his house that are like smack dab in the middle of it. One 7th grader and a 10th grader. I mean, come on, guys. You know, these kids are getting offered in grand fashion, and it's just you know, it's a kudos to him, as I stated earlier. You know, for Jason to have all the resources. You know, guys like me, Jason, Steve. You know, our kids, the people in our network, they're gonna have the leg up. You know, because we understand that foreign language that coach, player, culture speaks. You know what I mean? We can discern, we can feel, we can sense that. And so the simple plays and what we're trying to create as it relates to the platform, providing information and being available and being those guys that folks and families can really rely on and understand that everything that we're not just talking about it, we've lived it, we've been there, we've done that. We were the NIL before there was NIL. There was negative NIL, negative dollars, So we know the good, bad, and the ugly. And once again, it's a pleasure to work with you guys and have everybody in the same, likeness. We may not agree 100% all the time, but if it's logical, guarantee, we all on the same page. And so it's exciting to know that we really could help push this whole collective bargaining thing in the right direction, because everything else right now is just noise. All of the agents, all of the, the money vultures, that's all noise. What we're moving to is a standard operating procedure that will have longevity, and that's collective bargaining, paying these players, giving them compensation, just not NIL. That's cute, but compensation is really where we need to be at. And I think that puts us at the front of the line, because everybody else is caught in the whole NIL,
Right.
fiasco. We're talking about the nuts and the bolts of it. And when you stop and turn off the noise, you know what? That collective bargaining is where it needs to be at. We need to be getting paid. And everybody needs to get paid a fair assessment based on what they produce by team, by player, by position. Hey, this is the real world. There ain't no handouts. So let's compensate and move accordingly. Let's stop whining about the NIL. Oh my God. No, let's come and move right to it. Get to the collective bargaining agreement, NCAA, Power 5, D1, D2, D3. Get in where you fit in. Let's make it equitable based on those levels, because we want to be fair to everybody. Treat everybody fair, but not the same. All right? And so once again, the simple plays, I believe we're on the cusp of something great, something effective. That's going to be, it'll be felt in our industry. I really believe that every time we get together, it's just, it's a sense of normalcy and how it should be. I know, we're not the gospel, but hey, we might just become it.
There you go. And I think you just coined a phrase where we should have a simple play shirt there. Get in where you fit in. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Get in where you fit in. Steve, final thoughts from your perspective tonight at tonight's show.
Again, reiterate, and the awakening of what it is to take control and command of your name, image, and likeness is what it is. When you actually control it and you actually dictate what it is, I mean, you start realizing you have a lot of power in your name. You have a lot of power in your image. You have a lot of power in your likeness. So again, it's about having these sober conversations, dealing with it. We're not going to agree on everything. That we would love to have full agreement, but we won't. So that's just the nature of life. But accepting that it's okay for somebody to earn income when this universities understand the university has these TV deals that are very similar to the NFL. And the NFL was, when I left, was paying 100 or 600 something million per locker room. So with the similar to, and that's just the TV money. Vegas money's not in it, just the TV money. And if the Power Five got the same kind of deals, you got no excuse not to pay your players. So that being the case, again, our whole goal here is to get people and start putting together groups around each school, former players, former coaches, former staff. By all means, we want you to sign up, be a part of the Simple Plays, and we'll start putting people together to join our networks. We got tons of people in our networks. I played for 10 NFL teams. I know a lot of people. That's what we're trying to do, pull the networks together. So go to our page, click the sign up, go down the sheet and just put where you came from and what you're interested in, and be a part of what we're trying to bring together. Because the power is in the people's hands. But if the people don't pick it up, guess what? You're going to give it back to the NCAA, and we see what they've done for the last 100+ years. So we start to unite. We're trying to pull it all together. We just get it started. And we're the catalyst. And anything that's going to be administered into your body needs a catalyst. So thank you for watching and being a part of us. And we can't wait for all the shows to come up and all the events we're going to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yep. You hit the nail on the head. Reach out. We're there to help and love to hear from you. Rev, you came on a little late. I know you've been coming off the IR, so understandably so. Probably resting a little bit. What do you got in your final thoughts?
I got 2 points and a final thought. First is, when you talk about some of these great traditions with the walk-on athlete, it's going to be interesting to see how that is massaged with the NIL, because there's some great traditions in college football where you have guys, everybody kind of always looks back to the Rudy Rudigers of the world that, he walk on, etc., earned a stripe, played at Notre Dame. Let's see how that kind of correlates and what translates here in the fall. Second one is we're going to start seeing coaches not just recruit players, but companies. Okay, I think that's coming down the pipe. And then my final thought is this: if we could take Steve's necklace and Sid's bracelet, I could have my own Mr. T starter kit. What's up?
Yeah. Oh my goodness! Rep, that's what we love having you. We wish you were on for the intro today because you're always bringing it, my man. You're always bringing it, Rev. All right, Brian, let's go to you. I know a little quiet tonight, but that's all right. That happens sometime. But you're the man with the stats behind the scene. You know what's going on. You brought some valid points tonight, so let's hear from you. What say you tonight?
That's plenty fine. Sometimes I just got to get out of the way. Yeah, I think I see a lot of these guys on, speaking of groups, you see a lot of these guys on Twitter and online, and guys that are interested in NIL and maybe don't have those connections, or maybe they do have connections, and they want to, come on with us. Come on.
Absolutely.
Any former players, former coaches, come and sign up. Come and check us out. Let's get together under one umbrella. There's enough for all of us to eat. So come on, let's go.
You are the welcoming wagon. Come on, come all. Greatest show on earth. See if we can get her going, right? But guys, my final thoughts or comments on tonight. Great. I want to thank Jason Strayhorn again for coming on tonight. Can't thank you enough. In the back end there, you see everything Jason. Happening on the street, everything coming on. Got to thank Zach Ryhard. One for him, he's the glue that holds this together right now. But as far as what we're talking about, mentorship is exactly why we have people like Jason Strayhorn on, because it's so key to making this work for everybody to help out. So if you go on the site, like I said, let us know who you are, where you're from. Get involved. That's what we want to do. Get involved. And by the way, there's Jason's plugging that there, friendsdetroit.org. I want to make sure also you know your rights. Hopefully we'll get some of these legal side people on, the Coley Wilcoxons, the Darren Heitners, the Mitt Whitners, all these people involved with the legal side, lawyers that are actually doing a lot of this stuff pro bono now in this first year to help out these athletes, because know what you're signing. Just like your first cut, know what you're signing, because I don't think a lot of these guys, they see the money, the dollars, and they woohoo. Well, hey, you got to make sure you look at that fine print, guys. Make sure of that. And future guests, by the way, I want to bring up a couple of names we got coming up, I believe. Rev, are we okay with Mike Hollis? Is Mike coming on with us?
We are. All-time leading scorer in Jacksonville Jaguar history. Also kicking at an NIFL squad near you, the Jacksonville Sharks, I believe. So yeah, he'll be our guest next week.
Great. I'm glad. I wanted to confirm that with you. So Mike Hollis, just goes to show you, bald guys can still succeed at 50+ years old, because he's in the right.
Aerodynamics. He's going to be a great interview too.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Yes,
as well.
Because I don't think kickers get enough credit. Obviously they voluntary and this, they come out and they don't take hits, but hey, special teams.
They're great golfers. That's the credit I'm going to give all the kickers. Great golfers, every one of them. I've never been a bad one as far as golfing. So,
but without a great kicker, you could lose a game. It comes in handy, especially a little extra point or a long field goal. So, and then the following week, I believe we're going to have, that's confirmed, Mike Westhoff. Brian, you can probably adhere to that. Let us know. Is that a goal for the end of the month?
It is the 29th. The greatest special teams coach maybe in the history of the NFL. Definitely invented a lot of the stuff that you see today.
Yes, indeed. So good. So that's the next two guests. We're working on some other ones. I've got a couple, like I said, NIL Summit attendees. I'm hoping we can get a D3 athlete, the king of the NIL in Division III, and hopefully I can hear back from Raekwon Smith there, who was awarded. I think he got him and Jack Betts, and I forget the third gentleman, but he actually won the award out there at the summit, and people like that. And this doesn't have to just be football. We talk about football. That's kind of our wheelhouse right now because the guys that are involved, but this is all sports. So if you go on to the site, sign up. Who would you like to see? Maybe you're someone that wants to talk about it. Maybe you play the sport. Maybe, let us know. That's what we're here for. We want to be your voice. That's what it's all about. So I don't have much else other than go Rams Friday. Going for a state championship. First time ever. I'm really proud of those boys. So going to be at the state tournament over at Target Field, using my voice to hopefully call a title game for them. So, guys, as always, pleasure to get on with you tonight. We appreciate it. This is my happy place. This is my field. Not playing the game anymore, but this is what it's all about: mentorship and the time after the game. So,
hey, thanks to Zach for producing our show. Thank you so much,
Zach. You're the man.
Thanks, Zach.
So watch the Facebook page, check out the Twitter. If you haven't yet, sign up. We're going to Instagram. All you those are watching after the fact. Let's become friends. So long, everybody.
So long, everybody.